But for the White House, it was a celebration yesterday of America's independence. They had the barbecue, the concert, the fireworks, the whole thing. Returning from a weekend at Camp David, President Joe Biden addressed military members in the crowd, we called the protectors of democracy.
You are the sinew, the backbone, the reality of why we're who we are. Unbreaking, unbending. Throughout our history, remind us that democracy is never, never, never guaranteed. Every generation must fight to maintain it. We must always cherish it, defend it, and strengthen it.
In the evening, the president switched into the role of MC to introduce the night's musical act, where he was met with some enthusiasm for his re-election campaign.
Hey, buddy. Welcome to your house, the White House. We're just renting. Think how music can change moods, music can make us feel better. It's just incredible. And I thought we had some great, great entertainment here tonight.
Yeah.
Well, now you're making music to my ears.
Biden 2024, someone yelled there from the crowd at the White House yesterday after President Biden's leading Republican challenger Donald Trump. Well, he didn't hit the campaign trail on the 4th. The former president spent the holiday on social media, railing against the Justice Department, his other perceived enemies, in addition to posting this photo of his head superimposed on George Washington's body and sharing a post that included the words F Joe Biden, which we've blurred out here. Trump called for special counsel Jack Smith to be, quote, defunded. He also said Smith should be, quote, put out to rest before Democrats steal another election. Donald Trump was one of the only Republican candidates actually not out campaigning yesterday. Ron DeSantis, Doug Burgum, Tim Scott, Will Hurd all made competing appearances at the same Independence Day parade in Merrimack, New Hampshire. Former President Mike Pence went to Iowa, where he took part in a parade in Urbandale, where he pitched himself as a better option to Donald Trump.
The people of Iowa, the people of America are ready for a change. I think different times call for different leadership in the Republican Party and in America. And we're just absolutely determined to offer our brand of leadership, common sense, conservative values, with an emphasis on civility and respect for the people of this state.
So, Claire, pretty conventional 4th of July campaigning for most of the Republican candidates. Donald Trump posting on social media, making himself into George Washington. The obvious distinction there, one of many, is that George Washington was a soldier. Donald Trump chose not to be one. But what does it say to you about the state of this Republican primary that Donald Trump thinks, I can just stay home, I can sit at my golf club and post on social media, and that works for me? I don't even have to go out and do an event. I don't even have to go out and press the flesh and do the things that other people feel like they need to do to get elected in Iowa and New Hampshire.
Well, in my opinion, one of the saddest things that's happened in modern politics is the fact that so many candidates don't think it's important to go out and do what we call in politics retail, which is shaking hands, looking people in the eye, talking to them, answering their questions. That's going away. And obviously for Donald Trump, he is much more comfortable at his very luxurious golf club with his thumbs on a device, tweeting obscenities about the sitting president. You know, it's interesting to me when I look at the 4 pictures that are on the screen right now. You know, I guarantee you that most of America that is looking at this screen right now goes, well, who are those other 2 guys? And that's the other thing that's interesting about this. We have a bunch of candidates that really have absolutely no name recognition. And they're not going to get name recognition by marching in a small 4th of July parade in New Hampshire. That's not going to do it. They're going to have to raise big money in order for anybody to go, well, who is that? Other than say, who is that? So right now, Donald Trump's in a commanding position. And think about that, Republican Party. You've got a guy who says F Biden on the 4th of July, and he's your man. It is unbelievable.
So many of those second-tier Republican candidates have issues whether or not they'll even qualify for the first debate, which is just a month or so away. There's certain thresholds they've got to hit. It's unclear even like right now, even Nikki Haley and Tim Scott, though likely will get in. It's not a sure thing. Chris Christie as well. So, Caddy, let's talk about the Trump strategy here. Our friends at Axios did some reporting actually noting just how few events he's actually had since becoming a declared candidate, despite his bluster about his energy and his robust schedule. That's actually not the case. But the Trump team has made a calculation. I mean, some of this might be Trump's laziness, but beyond that, they've made a calculation. Well, we don't need to do this. We don't need to be out there. We can parachute in, have a big event, have a big rally. We'll dominate the headlines for days. He can sit on Truth Social wishing a happy 4th of July to the haters and the losers out there. He might not even participate in that first debate because he's got such a big lead and he doesn't want to elevate the rest. Do you see that strategy backfiring, or is that actually the right way to do it for someone like him?
At the moment, there's no evidence that it's backfiring, right? In poll after poll, his lead is increasing, not decreasing. So the strategy of doing the occasional big rally and getting a ton of media attention, because whatever he does, whether it's being indicted, whether it's tweeting what he tweets or sending out social media posts on the 4th of July, we talk about it. And he gets an enormous amount of attention just through doing that. So if I was his campaign, I'd be saying carry on doing what you're doing. I mean, I guess the only thing to remember is that in December of 2007, Barack Obama was 20 points behind Hillary Clinton, and there is still time, potentially, for one of these candidates to break through. One assumes it would have to be Ron DeSantis because he's the only one who has the money and some polling and has been consistently second in the polls. So I suppose there is still time for him to break through. But I don't see any reason that the Trump campaign would trade strategies, given that what they're doing is working so well for them at the moment.